So we did complain a lot to the city council about the concrete smashing plant, but at the same meeting, we also had to take up with them the idea of $34,000 to install plastic plants to beautify the downtown.
Consent agenda item 8C, approve the award for the hanging basket and artificial plants contract award.
Kate Perez, 3025 South Washington Avenue, Titusville. I'm just wondering why we're spending $34,491 and then $20,661 annually for fake plants instead of like actual trees or native plants or something that would I don't know, absorb polluted stormwater, give a place for birds and things to live, butterflies, whatever, bees. Why are we spending the money on artificial plants? Can anyone tell me that?
And we just discussed that in the CRA, and that was some question, but Kevin, can you answer that, please?
Yeah, the first 2 years we did baskets hanging on our light poles downtown. They were living plants. They also didn't survive very long, and they were very maintenance heavy. They weren't visible because they're hanging at 12 feet above your head. So we switched to artificial 3 years ago.
And can I ask you why you didn't look into native plants that would have survived? Like, epiphytes, for example?
I mean, if the council desires, we can go back to looking at living plants. We switched out. I think it's been about 3 or 4 years since we've been used any living plants in the baskets.
Hey, I'm just going to say, I saw the baskets several years ago. They looked horrible.
Mm-hmm.
The living plants were just,
Right, but they weren't natives, right?
I can't remember what they were.
So this is one of the things that I would like to change about the way the city of Titusville does business. They never seem to have records of anything, and nobody seems to research the things they spend money on. So no one really has any idea what kind of plants didn't do well there.
Good evening, Nathan Slusher at 860 Allendale Street. I'm going to speak out against $35,000 for fake plants. I do appreciate the explanation given. However, I do understand that fake plants don't last very long either. It's something that I've had to tear down and put up and tear down and put up. If live plants are looking horrible, if the actual hanging baskets are not working accordingly, it's because the landscaper who put them in is using bad plants or using bad planting techniques or using bad watering techniques. Hanging plants can look beautiful if they're properly maintained with the right amount of maintenance per week. With the cost that's on this agenda, we could have 100, and I say we, my company could install 100 plants that cost $150 a piece and pay somebody to maintain them for 8 hours a week for an entire year. The cost bothers me. If it was a $1,000 cost to put in some plants, that's understandable. But we're talking almost $55,000 to install fake plants. That doesn't, I understand the thought process with beautification, and I commend anyone who is going through the process to provide a plan to make us look beautiful. But fake plants does not help the reputation of the city.
Plastic plants? Really? Seriously? You can't flip the switch to turn the video on so we can record the TEC because of the millions of dollars of back money that the city manager's behind, but we can afford $20,000 annually for plastic plants? For crying out loud, which one's going to have more community involvement? Plants that are 12 feet high that you can't see, and they're plastic and they're raining down on us because it's plastic and they fall apart in ultraviolet light, but, you know, plants have that down pat. Why so much money for something that on an annual basis isn't going to provide as much benefit? You could be doing something for the lagoon instead of putting up plastic plants that are going to deteriorate, fall in the raceway right on down to the lagoon. What are you doing? What are you considering? I don't understand. I don't understand how to change the hearts and minds of men who have apathy for what's happening to our environment and continue to do the same thing day after day, expecting different results. That's the definition of insanity. That's what y'all are doing. You understand that? We need a new game plan, Coach. Thank you.
Go ahead and have a seat, but I'm going to disagree with you. It's real easy to sit out there and use that term apathy and all that stuff when, quite honestly, I don't know. I mean, you're here some of the time. I mean, if we need to, we can certainly give everything we've done for the Indian River Lagoon, because I don't guess you're looking for that. We'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that. You had your time. Next, I will also tell you that, and I write this down all the time, 50,000. Why 50,000? Because there's 50,000 people that I represent. And then they don't necessarily come here. Many of them are at the Little League ballpark right now, or they're at the softball field, or the soccer field. They're at church, whatever they may be doing.
Now that bugs me a little bit. I've heard our mayor make this same type of what they call hollow man argument when we were trying to get the tree canopy ordinance approved. And he was saying, well, there's 50,000 people in Titusville. They're not all here, implying that those people would agree that plastic plants are great or clear cutting is great. It's a logical fallacy in an argument to do this kind of thing. And it's a little bit disingenuous.
I'd like to see if we could do some area, I don't call it experimental, but where we could put some and see if we can grow them and have some longevity with them. I think that having some real plants, if they can be made to work, would be at least worth an effort. Again,
Tony Stripolo, 715 Tropic Street, the historic Norwood House. I came here for other reasons tonight, but I got to speak to this. This is really a silly idea. Silly, silly, silly plastic plants. Jiminy Cricket. In a city that wants to pass itself off as the gateway to nature and space, can't you come up with something different than hanging baskets of overflowing plastic plants? Look at the way, if you live in a condominium, you don't have a yard, so you don't know how the weeds and the vines grow here. Those vines that grow up into the trees, those tropical, I don't know the names of them because I don't know plants myself, but I know a real one from a plastic one. And I think I would be embarrassed to have my friends come to Titusville and see that we line our streets with plastic plants when we say we're the gateway to nature. It's just so silly. So please forgive me for laughing at such a stupid idea. But $35,000, Jiminy Cricket, you could grow a whole bunch of those vines that grow up on the trees, and you could get civic involvement by getting the Titusville Men's Garden Club and the garden clubs and youth, for heaven's sake. We're trying to find projects for the young people, pay them minimum wage maybe to go and water these hanging baskets of real plants. You know, there's all kinds of other possibilities. Or maybe not hang baskets of plastic plants. Find some other way to beautify the downtown. Thank you.
thank you. Next card, please.
Like, instead of plastic plants, plastic birds might be better.
Good old Stan just got the funniest joke of the evening, folks. Plastic birds might be better. And I'm going to go one up on him and say, hey, maybe we could just have plastic manatees instead of the ones that are starving to death in the lagoon. And two things that concern me, but I didn't think of them at the time. Will our bees and butterflies and other insects be trying to pollinate these plastic plants when they should be trying to pollinate real plants? And will our birds grab pieces of these plastic plants for their nests and spread them around?
We could put them out there and we could have, because there's much of them are getting to be almost extinct. And those are the birds we could choose. They're native. So that's something I'd like you to consider, but tabling this item might be the best thing to do, considering the discussion we've had, because $20,000 a year, Tony didn't mention that. She mentioned $35,000 or something like that, but $20,000 a year to it's like maintaining these plastic plants, replacing them. That's all that plastic is just going into our environment.
I think I would be in favor of backing up for a month and see what you can do with that. The price is a concern. Make another effort at the native plants, but
Again, I like our mayor. I think everybody likes him. But it's disingenuous of him to say make another effort at native plants when it was clear at this meeting that they had not tried native plants before.